Hey, good day. I'm Justin A.Williams. I'm the author of Reborn Virtues Constellation, which you can get on Amazon. You can also get on Barnes& Nobles and any other place where books are sold. Today, what we're going to talk about is realms within myth. So, some of the most famous realms, or in what is a realm? Uh, First, let me say what is a realm. A realm is a place, usually a physical place where some type of divine being resides, or that people reside. Like in Norse mythology, like Midgard would be Earth, right? Or like Hyperborea would be a place of magic and lore that Apollo goes to teach and educate. Some speculate that they're talking about a connection between the North being of Europe and Greece in some kind of ancient metaphorical way. But today what we're going to talk about is how realms in myth really represent realms within the self, realms within you. And I'm sure if you consume mythological content on YouTube, you've heard a lot of people, particularly Norse focused people, talk about how the nine realms really represent the human body, right? That there could be possibly nine chakras, and this represents that or that in a very Vedic way, that the outer exterior of the realm is really about people. It's about your personality. It's about your future. It's about your destiny. It's a outward extension of what's going on inside of yourself. But what I want to talk about is how that can improve your mood and make you a better you, right? So realms like Tir Nanog or Western paradise, in the Christian sense, heaven, in the Judaic sense, maybe Sheol, right, which is kind of different than heaven in a lot of ways. They offer us the opportunity to understand different cultures and how they view contemplation, right? If you go to Sheol in the Jewish sense, you were there not in hell, but you were there away from God, away from the things of pleasure and paradise. It's a place of contemplation. It's a place of deep remorse and sadness and maybe even shame, but it's not the end, right? And that's kind of what I like about it, is that for self-improvement purposes, when we get to our own shoals, our own places of like Tartarus or Hades or something like that, where we are punishing ourselves or being punished by another or life itself for a multiplicity of things that are trauma related, we need to look inside ourselves and maybe even look to myth to get us out of those doldrums, to get us out of that. Right? You can't subsist forever in Sheol. You can't subsist forever in Hades, a personal Hades, right? If you look at the stories of Sisyphus, or so many people in Greek mythology that are punished by going to Tartarus, they have a very specific punishment, right? But it's not necessarily that the gods are doing this, right? It's that this person has broken law. This person has offended not only the outward world, but somehow the inner world. And he needs to, in the Greek mythology sense, do something very ironic and cryptic and very personal to the crime, fix whatever has been done. Hades is obviously an extreme, as is Tartarus, as it's meant to, because the crime is extreme, right? And if we do extreme crimes to ourselves, if we take a lot of drugs, if we or abuse ourselves with alcohol, if we abuse ourselves with being toxic to other people, right? If we're just mean people, then we are going through an extreme where we are just as much punishing ourselves as we're punishing other people. And to fix that, we need to ascend to a new level. So if you follow the Norse religion, right, you have places of extreme cold, which would be Niflheim. You have places of extreme heat, right, which would be Muspelheim. But you also have places that are moderate, like Midgard. You have places like where the elves dwell, which is supposed to be a paradise. You have also Asgard, again, another paradisical place. And if the soul is going to evolve, like it does in Hinduism, where you could start off as a god, but then you get lazy and you don't practice dharma, right? You don't practice the rules and regulations of being a good person. You may descend into hell, right? And hell could be torturous, or hell could be really contemplative, right? There's the fields of asphodel in Hades, where you just kind of linger and wander if you never accomplish anything great in life. And though in the Greek sense, from what we know, and in my theory, the Greek myths are really things for the layman, for the kids to get entry into mythology and religion. I think the real religions of ancient Greece were really based off of the mystery cults, That's where the serious practitioner of religion would have been. I think many or most of the gods probably had their own mystery cults, and that information was probably in the Library of Alexandria, or a plethora of other libraries that were burned down, commandeered, destroyed, stolen from over the centuries by various factions and for various intentions. But I digress. Anyway, if you're going to ascend to a new level, like it says in Hinduism, right, out of that hell and become an animal, a human, then maybe a god again, all that is to make you better. I know it's hard to see the divinity, the divine purpose in times when we're struggling, when we're not doing well, when we have pain, when we fail, when things fail us. I've gone through many steps of that. Just a personal story about myself. I was a rower on the Princeton rowing team freshman year, and I had a very complicated relationship with my father, and I had always had the expectation that I was going to be a great athlete, and I was a very good athlete, but when it came to college sports, I had to make a decision between doing well academically and doing well athletically, and dealing with this weird anxiety pain that I had. My body was crunched by so much anxiety that I had these knots all over my back and other places like my arms, my hips. I was very inflexible. Everybody knew that about me and laughed. So when I wanted to do well and perform well, I couldn't, because I was in my own personal Tartarus. I was in my own personal hell where I was being a detriment to myself because I just had a lot of negative ideation in my head. I was always telling myself, I'm not going to do it, not going to do it, not going to do it. It's not going to happen. I had a very negative outlook on things. So in many ways, I was in Sheol, right? I was away from God. If you think of God as a positive, reaffirming force. So I eventually stopped rowing after my freshman year. And then I joined various different things, a cappella, rugby. And I think looking back on it, if I had a better guide, a better shaman in my life, right? If I had an Odin, or if I had a Coyote, or if I had someone in my life that could have really seen what was going on with me, believed me, gave me credibility, right? I think that's an important thing too. When you want to get out of Sheol, when you want to get out of hell, when you want to go to heaven, you're going to need a psycho pump, someone that's going to take you there, someone like a Hermes, right? That can be wise enough to really know you, right? And this could be a therapist, it could be a girlfriend, a mother, a friend. I had no one in my life like that. So no one understood me, so no one knew how to communicate with me and say, maybe you do want to fight through this pain. Let's find some answers, find some solutions. Let's get you more flexible. Let's go to some doctors, maybe wherever we can find. Because the number one thing we want is for you to maximize your potential in something that you want to do, which was I wanted to keep rowing. I wanted to keep being a varsity D1 athlete. So, with myth, we have to understand that the theme of any kind of realm is that you can always rebuild, right? Why does Apollo go to Hyperborea? Well, Apollo goes to Hyperborea after a great trial. He has to defend his mother against a giant. Then he has to defend his sister and mother against a giant serpent or dragon. Then he has to defend himself against a woman that lies to him. A magical woman, might be a nymph, could be a fury, could be Demeter. We don't really know. That tricks him into not getting his birthright, right? He goes through all these trials and troubles, and he's just born. So Hyperborea offers him a place of rest, of respite, and also to be himself. What's the one thing you don't really associate with a lot of Greek gods? Teaching, right? You don't think of Zeus or Hephaestus or maybe even Ares as being people that you go to their class and say, this is a great professor, a great philosopher. But Apollo is different. Apollo offers this chance, I think, in a lot of his stories where he's teaching some kind of moral or fable. Very similar to Apollonius of Tyana, if you know him, or Jesus, Buddha, right? Apollo is kind of that figure in Greek mythology. And I can point to it in my own life where I kind of stumbled into becoming a professor at York College and teaching. And through teaching, I learned more than I think even some of my students learned from me. And I think my students learned a lot from the feedback I've gotten from them over the years. So I think the active process of improvement takes us reflecting on our personal hells, our personal Tartaruses, but also not dwelling on them and blaming ourselves forever. It's okay to blame yourself when I think it is your fault, and taking responsibility. I'm very big on taking personal responsibility. But other things need to come into your life to pull you out of there. And sometimes we can't choose when that happens. We want, like in the myths of Hercules, to just be free of the world, free of our labors. But we don't decide when that happens all the time. Whether you believe in the higher power or not, even science will tell you that things come when they kind of are meant to by nature, right? If you look at how trees operate, we're finding out now that trees and plants are all connected through the mycelium underground, and there's a thinking process there. There's a brain there. So even nature has timing, right? The seasons, right? We may really strive for winter when it's summer. I mean, I know it's hot here in New York. I wish it was winter. I love winter, but I can't get winter right now. I have to deal with what's in front of me, which is summer. And so I think to end this video, myth offers us the opportunity to really look deeply inside ourselves and understand that just like there are realms in myth that are of punishment or of pleasure, there are realms within the self that enact those pleasurable or punishable things. I had a kung fu teacher, Sifu Shi Young Ming, in the USA Shaolin Temple in New York City. He used to say that you have the sweet and you have the sour, right? You don't want to necessarily always put things into good and evil dichotomy. That sometimes scares us. But if you say the sweet and the sour, then it's a little more tenable. It's a little more palatable for you to feel like I'm not just condemned forever to a position, especially when there's a lot in life we don't choose. I didn't choose necessarily my form. I didn't choose necessarily from what I know. I didn't choose my life path from what I know. I mean, I know there's a lot of esoterics out there that say that we do, but whatever, we don't know these things. So as a Stoic, we have to deal with realities. And the reality is, to end, is that we're all works in process, and even the gods in mythology are works in progress. And I like that. I like that there's hints of perfection, but they don't necessarily achieve it just by being born. You have to work for it. And there's no other way to get out of hell but to work it out, to put in the work. But it can make you a better person. It can really construct you in a way where you become wise, and you can spread that wisdom best you can. So that's it for Myth Mental Health today. I hope the journey we've been on for the past 12, 13 minutes has been great for you. Like, share, and subscribe. And also pick up my book, Reborn Virtues Constellation. It's a great story about a young man who's diagnosed with bipolar. He's having visions and about 72 people that killed him in a past life. Those 72 people are on campus with him, so he is reborn in a new life. And it's a lot of intrigue. It's a lot of mythologies, from Greek mythology to Egyptian to Japanese, that are combined in the book. And I think it's really fun and exciting. I think you'll really enjoy it. So thank you. See you next time.